Hello, my name is Toby Little and I'm going to be talking to you about assessing foundation subjects in primary schools. I currently work at Courthouse Junior School in Maidenhead and I'm Deputy Head Teacher and I oversee the curriculum, professional learning and behaviour. I am at Garth Little on Twitter, and a disclaimer before we start: when I'm talking about foundation subjects in this presentation, what I mean is non-core subjects, or as I learnt when I was training about 12 years ago, the subjects that usually happen in the afternoons at primary school. So I'm going to start by sharing with you one of our 6 strategic goals at Courthouse, and that's to have a world-class experience. We make sure our curriculum is regularly reviewed by checking at the end of each half term, and that's to check whether the children have learnt what was intended, and that's key for today's presentation. Therefore, it allows us to iteratively improve our curriculum to keep it ambitious, so we'll keep trying to improve it and keep checking what the children have learnt to make it better the next time the children do it. An important part of teaching is checking that children have learnt what we've intended them to learn. So on an individual level, we need to remember that performance and learning aren't the same thing. Just because a child can do something in the lesson just after being shown, it does not mean they have learnt it, because learning is a change in long-term memory. Children's responses to review questions give a far better indicator of what's been learned, because time will have elapsed. End-of-unit quizzes are also more indicative for the same reason. More on that shortly. Assessing and testing children has 2 functions. The first is the act of remembering strengthen those memories. This is called the testing effect. The second is that they yield information that we can use to adapt further teaching. Now, although we may do this for English and Maths, it's much harder to do for the other subjects that we teach less often. If children have not fully grasped the unit on Egyptians, we cannot realistically return to it in a systematic way. What we can do, though, is judge the quality of the unit of work and make changes for the next cohort of children that experience it. And this is one of the uses of the composite tasks, to help us judge how successful a unit was or if adaptations need to be made. Now, what is really tempting to do is create that Excel tracker spreadsheet or the progress tracker with the curriculum along the top and all of the colours of the rainbow down the side to say whether a child is working towards, achieved, mastered, greater depth, whether they like that subject or not, how they behave in that subject, whether they've completed the homework in that subject or not. However, this isn't manageable. So we need to think about what progress is. It's quite clear in reading, writing, maths because of the standardised tests to measure that progress, but in foundation subjects it's a little bit trickier. So another $1 million question for teachers and leaders: what is progress? Well, at Courthouse, our curriculum is the progress model. We know that if we've carefully planned and intended things in our curriculum and the children have learnt them, then they've made progress. We also think that if children can do more and that if children know more, they have made progress, and we measure that through our quizzes. So we use Microsoft Forms to quiz our children. You can use any other quizzing platform. And we've designed our quizzes around what we have specifically taught. They are written by the teacher that has taught that unit of work and then quality assured by other teachers and leaders. What they allow us to do is to highlight misconceptions. They allow us to check whether what we've planned has actually been learned by the children. There's lots of reasons why we use Microsoft Forms. The composite tasks are not a standalone form of assessment. They're a showcase of what the child has learnt in that unit of work, but it doesn't tell us everything they've actually learned. It might show us more of a performance. The quizzes can assess prior knowledge if we ask a child to take it before the unit of work and then at the end. It helps us spot misconceptions, that things that we've thought we've taught really well that children might not have actually learned. It gives us instant results. There is no marking involved. The teacher clicks a button and the results are there. They are also cumulative and help children review prior learning. So as children work their way through Courthouse, they have access to all the quizzes they've done before. So our Year 6 children have access to Year 3 quizzes, Year 4 quizzes, Year 5 quizzes, and all of the Year 6 quizzes, so that knowledge builds on itself. The links can also be uploaded to Seesaw or other virtual learning platforms during a pandemic or for future homework, and they are really easy to edit and reuse and tweak if we need to. Here's an example of a question from our Year 6 topic of History of Computing. And we asked the children to take a quiz on this and ask them the question, when was the first mobile telephone call made? Now, this was a question that we thought we'd taught really well, and the Year 6 team were really happy that they taught well. And when they actually checked the results, it was really clear there was a misconception. Looking at the results, it's clear that over a third of children don't know when the first mobile telephone call was made. This is something that really highlights the importance of a quiz. A child can say it in the lesson when the first mobile telephone call was made because they've just been told it. But when they come back and revisit at the end of the unit, it's clear that that piece of knowledge hasn't been learned. As time's gone on, we've developed and improved our quizzes. We're now using images and different types of question stem when asking children to recall knowledge. Also, it's really important to include a mixture of substantive and disciplinary knowledge. So the substantive knowledge, those facts or key bits of information linked to a unit of work, but also disciplinary knowledge about the subject discipline. So in history, you might have a question about comparing sources of evidence to think like a historian. Or in a science quiz, you might have a question about testing, because in science there's lots of testing to develop hypotheses and evidence. We've made our quizzes available on the school website, so children have access to them all the time. And also, please feel free to have a look at the quizzes and give me any feedback